Someone is coming back to Elm Street. He is not friendly, but he has something terribly special for the new kid on the block.
It started to happen again. Dad! Hey, help!
Daddy can't help you now.
Will be in your neighborhood soon. A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 2.
You are all my children now.
Welcome to the next edition of Popcornween. I committed to doing the entire Nightmare series, so that includes the good, but also the bad. And up until 14 years ago...
You think you could turn back time?
Nightmare on Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge was widely considered to be the worst Nightmare on Elm Street, hands down. Not only was it the worst, it was also one of the worst sequels ever made. And not only that, it is widely considered to be the gayest horror movie ever made. So strap in for a not so excited review as last time as we go into A Nightmare on Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge.
Freddy's Revenge.
Now, what happened? How could you go from one of the greatest horror movies ever made to one of the absolute worst horror movies ever made in less than a year? Nightmare on Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge came out exactly 8 days prior to a year from the original movie. And what had happened is New Line Cinema had a hit. Freddy Krueger was everything at the time. It came out, it killed the box office, it killed the world box office. It was roaring. And New Line Cinema, as they do, wanted to have a sequel to this movie. So they approached Wes Craven, and Wes Craven said, nope. Freddy's a one and done. Nightmare is a one and done. I have no interest in doing another movie. And so New Line Cinema said, fine, screw you. And so they went to Robert Englund and they said, hey, Robert Englund, we're going to do a second Freddy. We're going to do a second Nightmare on Elm Street. Would you like to come in and play the part, reprise your role as Freddy Krueger? And Robert Englund said, sure, but you're not going to pay me as much as you did last time. You're going to back up the Brinks truck because Freddy is a big hit. And New Line Cinema said, nah. And so they went ahead without Wes Craven and without Robert Englund. Now, as they were going through the first part of the filming, they had recast Freddy, but they realized that it wasn't going to work. And so they went back to Robert Englund and said, fine, we're back in the Brinks truck. Are you on board? And he said, heck yeah, I am. And so Robert Englund had finally joined the second movie. Now, if you look in the shower scene where Freddy is standing in the shower and there's a bunch of smoke around him, you'll notice that it does not look like Robert Englund. And that's because that's one of the scenes that were filmed before they brought Robert Englund back on. But I digress. So, anyway, Wes Craven's out of the movie, and they bring in director Jack Shoulder. And what is the name of the writer? Because he really deserves credit. Where is the writer credit? I forget the writer's name. David Caskin. Now, that's Chaskin. Now, if you look at the IMDb writer credits, Wes Craven has a credit, but he had absolutely no input or involvement in this movie at all. Now, I constantly remind you, at least in the last video, and I will remind you over and over in the subsequent videos, that A Nightmare on Elm Street did things long before other people did. Like I reminded you in the last one, booby trapping your home to stop an intruder, kingmakers, all that stuff. Well, they had a first here too. Even in this terrible, awful movie, they had a first. And it's the patented King of the North line, go woke, go broke. Because what happened with this movie was an abomination. So this movie releases, everybody's excited, and they go into it, and they see, and I'm not joking, the gayest horror movie you have ever seen. Every single scene, every single action, every single set, gay. Gay! The whole thing is super gay. To the point that now the gay community is embracing it as some sort of weird Rocky Horror Picture Show type movie, even though it's the absolute worst horror movie ever made. So yes, as King of the North always likes to remind people, Nightmare on Elm Street went woke, went broke. So the basic storyline on this movie is that this guy, Jesse Walsh, he comes in and his dad moves him into the Freddy Krueger house on Elm Street. Now, he is absolutely not a part of the kids. He has nothing to do with the parents. He has nothing to do with the story. Which is why for a long time people didn't even consider this a part of the series, because A, it was so bad, and B, it had nothing to do with anyone. They didn't bring Nancy in because they didn't want to tie it to Nancy, and they felt that Nancy would overshadow everything, and I'm glad they didn't, because Nancy got a good send-off in the next movie, and it would have been awful for her to be in this movie. Freddy also didn't adhere to any rules of the other movie. He could manipulate things in the real world. He could inhabit... It was almost like a demon possession kind of movie. And so this kid moves into the house, and he meets this redheaded girl who goes to his school, and they start this kind of friendship relationship, but he can't really get into it, because every single time that he starts to have any kind of intimate feelings for this girl or with her, he starts changing inside. There's literally a point in the movie that he says, there's something inside of me and it's trying to get out. Everything in this movie is a gay undertone. Everything. There is a scene where he goes to a gay S&M dive bar, and his coach that is at that gay S&M dive bar in gay S&M gear takes him in the middle of the night to the high school and has him run laps because he's not supposed to be there, and then ends up getting dead by being strung up in the shower by jump ropes, having his clothes ripped off to where you see his bare ass, and then he gets slashed in the back. That's how he dies. There is constantly rolling around on the floor. When he couldn't take it to the next level with his girlfriend in the cabana, the redhead girl, he goes to spend the night with the dude that he's constantly rolling around on the floor with as they're having tickle fights on the ground. God, this movie. There is a dance scene in this movie that has some goofy ass 80s soundtrack. And he's cleaning his room, and he decides in the middle of cleaning his room that while he's cleaning his room, he's going to turn it into a dance. And when I say this dance is gay, I'm not even joking. He rubbed his ass on the drawer and hit it to close it. He got on top of the bed and started humping the air, and he was holding a slide whistle, and he was moving the slide with the slide whistle in and out. And I'm not joking. And it zoomed in on those parts when he was doing. Now, fast forward, 30 years? And he's super gay, the director's super gay, everybody's super gay. This was the classic throw everything you believe into it. and completely self-insert into a movie. And it was awful. It was terrible. It was so bad that the ending of this movie, spoiler alert, the ending of this movie, they defeat Freddy with love. Because for the first time, Freddy experiences love. I'm not joking. There's a point at which he gets stuck in Freddy's body, and Freddy goes to the real world boiler room, which he can manipulate the real world now. The girlfriend goes into the boiler room, and he's just kill me. He's talking, and then Freddy's like, ha ha ha, I got him. And then she goes, I'm not going to kill you. I love you. And then she actually kisses Freddy. And when she does, he catches on fire and his head splits open. And there's Jessie Walsh in the background. She's like, I love you so much. I would never do that. And Freddy's like, ah, ah. It was the gayest, stupidest movie ever in the history of movies. And it remains that way today. So, do I recommend you watch Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge? Absolutely do not. Just skip it. Nobody was involved. It was a cash grab. They put it together. They gave it to inept people. And it almost killed the entire franchise. It was so bad that Wes Craven had to come in and save it, which we'll talk about in the next Popcornween. So that being said, have a gay day, everybody.